Hello my friends, what's up? How are you doing? My name is Gosia. In today's video, we will talk a little bit about something that was mentioned before, but I think it's always good to bring it up again and mention it again and clarify it again, even though as we clarify, I understand it can be even more confusing for people in the end, and that is the topic of the ufology circles and the information that different UFO experts, so to speak, are putting out there as the extraterrestrial exopolitical reality. And we talked about this a little bit before, but for the new people who haven't seen all the videos yet, what's going on in the ufology circles and exopolitical circles, especially official ones, is mostly just human ideas imposed on the exopolitical situation and reality. As our Tegetan and Svarunians explain, most of these ideas and information floating out there as to what's happening outside is a humanized version of what's going on. Because we as a human collective, we don't have the access directly and officially to the extraterrestrial collective, so we reflect in our understanding of the extraterrestrial collective, we reflect our own human collective and ideas. And among other ideas, these are these dualistic ideas of dark fleet and galactic federations of lights and all that division. Even though there is some of that out there, there are negative regressive alliances, etc., but the dualistic perception operates a bit differently out there in space, especially because they don't have that brain that is divided into two different modes of viewing reality, so they don't view it in the same way. That's why a lot of this information that is being given out there about the dark fleets and galactic federation of lights and the alliances of light and all that, that's just human imposition on extraterrestrial reality, and you have to keep that in mind. It doesn't reflect what's going on out there. And to that we need to add, and this is going to be talked about in the second part of the video, to that we need to add agencies and CIA and Jesuits and Illuminati and regressives manipulations of the ufology circles. But let's talk about this a bit later. So the video will be divided in two parts. First is part by Yazhi, conversation with Yazhi from the last year. I do not remember the date exactly, where she's mentioning the ufology circles. And then we'll move on to the next part, to the CIA involvement in our society, and especially the alternative societies that make reference to extraterrestrials. So I'm going to see you a bit later during the video. Originally in Spanish, 2021. Exact date unknown.
What would be the relationship between the Andromeda Council and the United Federation of Planets? The same relationship as the Alcyone Council with the United Federation of Planets?
The same, yes. They are minor councils, whether older or not, that group friendly races in cooperation. These groups have their high councils that in turn have a voice in each council of the Federation, as long as it is of their jurisdiction or competence. The Alcyone Council is for M45. It is easy to see physically because of the cluster of stars. The Andromeda Council, in addition to the different Andromedan factions, also includes races such as Sirian or Arcturian in its 3 modes, which in turn will also have their own councils.
Thank you. With all we know about human creations such as Tuplus and various levels of the game, the Draconian Empire, Orion Alliance, etc. would be another level of the game? I want to know if they do exist for the United Federation of Planets, or are the fears of the lower layers of the Federation passed to Earth, and then on Earth distorted by humans?
Yes, they exist outside. The problem is that the concept or idea of what they are like is specific to Earth and does not reflect the outside reality, being that the Earth itself, as a human collective unconscious, will reflect and interpret these concepts of negative alliances, meaning of evil, and the way they work only with the lens of the human collective's understanding. So the idea is totally distorted and humanized and does not correspond to what really happens. It is here that the human collective unconscious will reflect or embody its own fears in the concepts of regressive extraterrestrial races. And since the human race as a collective is totally separate from the extraterrestrial collective, it will generate egregors specific to the human race, except for the unconscious infiltration by starseeds and the like. The concept of egregor or tulpa does not mean that it is a fantasy. It is part of the total mechanism of manifestation and formation of a collective reality, and individual too, but I speak of the collective here. So, countless New Age ufologists, those who think they know about federations and exopolitics, will only reflect what they have accepted as a community among themselves. That is why their galactic federations of light are so dualistic, good and evil, dark fleet and light fleet. They are unable to see that such dual concepts, all black and all white, is only a reflection of their own brain structure divided into two hemispheres. And other ET races cannot see it this way since they do not have a divided brain. It is worth explaining here that the so-called unified non-human brain, that of many Lyra-based non-human races, does contain laterality in structure by maintaining functioning systems within the body. However, the cortical part, also called gray matter, is not divided by a physical trench as in the case of the human brain. Rather, it communicates with total efficiency between the two hemispheres, since it is this thinking part of the brain that is not divided. This goes beyond simple CPU efficiency, but reflects another understanding of reality. It gives one having the experience in a body equipped in this way something completely different from the human experience. Things are clearer, without so much need for constant comparison. This then generates another existential reality by having another understanding that conflicts with that of the human. This is not to mention the cabal's control agendas over information through their three-letter agencies that impose trends with the information that then the UFO researchers will follow. From all this above, we can understand why what certain people explain with their exopolitics differs so much from what we say. The realities do not fit together.
Well, this was part 1 of the video. Now we are moving on to the second part, where we are talking with Athena Swaruu, and this is more recent information, where we had a conversation with Athena and Robert about the CIA, and not only CIA's infiltration into the human society. And now, important point, do not think that the CIA stops at infiltrating the human society through movies or series. That's just a very basic, superficial level of their infiltration, where they are trying to reach the mass collective. But that mass collective is already programmed. So it's not such a big deal. Now the real effort is to infiltrate the alternative circles, because that's when the awakened, so-called, and awakened, semi-awakened, all variants in between people go in order to seek answers, in order to ask questions, to question official information. So this is the area, this is the field of life, the alternative circles, UFO circles, spiritual circles. These are the areas of special interest for the CIA, for the Illuminati and Jesuits and all the regressive creatures out there, to infiltrate in order to guide the perception of the awakened people. And the extent of that infiltration is much larger than you would ever imagine. And this is what we talk about in this next part.
Originally in Spanish, April 4, 2022. In the video that I have shown you now, they say that the CIA created Ummo race. In this other one, they explain how the CIA controls Hollywood. My point here is they don't stop there, the CIA. And it is delusional and even naive to believe that they stop there. They control everything that goes into the public and mass. All social, spiritual, political, religious, economic trends and movements. Every three-letter intelligence agency serves in one way or another the Jesuits, who are none other than the Illuminati. Specifically, the CIA is at the service of the corporations and their interests, not the country to which it belongs. While any movement may begin genuinely and spontaneously, it will quickly be infiltrated by agents who will modify the nature of the movement in the direction that suits them and the cabal. This can be seen with the naked eye in street protests, where they will bring in infiltrators to turn a peaceful protest into a violent one, or to provoke things or events within the protest that guide the perception of the greater public in the direction they desire. In other words, it can start as something genuine and then turn into a controlled agenda. About Ummo, from what we know here, Ummo does exist and has always existed. And they are known to apply something called Ummo protocol, which is self-discrediting in order to follow another agenda or to erase their own mistakes. So, what I can tell you about that video specifically is that the Ummo contact started as genuine, that was then infiltrated by the three-letter agencies that contaminated the contact and guided it in another direction to where it suited or suits them. This process is seen to be initiated also with the current contact with Taygeta, with the presence of the people in the scene who 100% are CIA agents thrown in there specifically to divert attention from this contact. Their nature, what they say, is exactly what is needed to counter our information. It is tailor-made, and that cannot be coincidental. It must also be seen that they use psychologists who are specialists in guiding mass mentality. That is why the information of these people, among all the other New Agers, is so appealing to people, because it diverts them from the truth by giving them what they need unconsciously, which is comfort, hope, and do nothing for themselves. They give people more of what they have always been given: hope that saviors more powerful than themselves will come to their aid. Prayers of love and peace that sound very advanced for weak minds with few mental resources. All with a view to control the perception of the mind and the human collective. The video I showed you demonstrates very well how the CIA manipulates what reaches the public perception, where you can see that nothing that comes out in the mainstream media is ever just empty entertainment, but everything is human mind programming. And that extends directly to other trends of interest for the human population, such as all those mystery and New Age channels, Alanisos, Ashtars, and the list goes on. All of that is CIA. Of course, the whole mystery world is controlled, because things can come out of it that can change people's perception against the interests of the controllers, especially when it comes to referencing the extraterrestrials. In the end, look carefully at what this implies: the enormous need to spend all kinds of resources, and with enormous effort, to control human perception, individual and collective. This indicates that those who have the real control over reality are humans and not the cabal. It also indicates a desperation and fear on the part of the cabal itself to have to control the population in this way, which supports what we have always said, that it all comes from the human mind. People believe that if the CIA gives information to someone, that source is reliable because it comes from the CIA, from an official place. But it's not that the CIA or any other three-letter organization passes information to the people. They pass them information they want people to have. And it's always to control. Everything is manipulated, not just some movies, as some mystery people allege on YouTube. Everything is, when it comes to mass media. And it is the other way around. The more official and accepted a person, source, or organization is, the more controlled it will be. That is why I warn everyone that the world is controlled, and the more official, the more full of agendas it will be. So, going back to the people who dominate exopolitics circles, everything is infiltrated, and it doesn't matter if it was genuine to begin with. All this narrative of arcs in Ukraine and other installations is more the CIA taking advantage of the war situation in Ukraine to impose more New Age narratives to further control all movements and everything that has to do with the ufological or extraterrestrial theme. In other words, it is a lie. We run energy detectors, sensors of all kinds that detect even ultra-subtle radiation, magnetic displacements in the subsurface, mass gravity accumulation, you name it. And we don't find any evidence that points to what certain people in exopolitics claim. As for us, we have no way of giving people proof of what we are, and that we are not CIA or any other agency, simply because the very system imposed by them denies us that possibility. But the overall analysis of the trends within our material would point in another direction. Analysis that, based on what some people who are against us claim, they have not done, not thoroughly. The proof, in our case, is tenuous and cumulative. I am telling you how they work and how they manipulate. We are the only group of ETs against the main narrative. Yet, we don't tell you not to listen to others, do what you want. But we are the only ones screaming that everything is controlled and why and how. We are the only ones who are calling your attention to this problem directly and loudly. And if they say we are too human, I have a news bomb for them. They always talk about the human collective unconscious as an excuse to explain why they make art, pyramids, and prints with the same themes all over the world. Like this, showing a YouTube video. As this gentleman says, and he says it well, they use the human collective unconscious as an excuse to normalize what otherwise would point to other, more logical explanations. Not socially accepted ones, though, at the same time. Well, my answer is that there is a collective unconscious. And that collective unconscious transcends the earth because there is more humanity outside. And that is why we would seem too human in the eyes of many. Because it is the same species, and we are all connected behind, from the level of the source, from the unconscious mass that forms us as people with souls. Because we are more of the same. Originally in Spanish, April 15, 2022. Let's see. Explain something to me, but seriously. Why do they say that we do a lot of damage to ufology and all that? I am interested in the why. Don't ask me, because I don't know what they really say out there.
Because we go against everything, what's officially accepted?
So we go against what is accepted. And who determines whether something is or is not accepted?
It is determined by an authority.
So someone who people have decided is an authority is followed by those who have the idea that they don't have the authority to know any better. And they don't have the authority because, according to them, they don't have the data and they don't have the social acceptance. They want what we say to fit in with what others with authority say. Which means they want us to follow the socially accepted authority on the subject. In other words, they want to normalize us, to stay within the norms accepted by an authority. That is the problem. It was never my intention to go along with the authorities. That's why our information is not controlled. The whole paranormal, ufology, and contactees world is manipulated by the CIA. It is a fact, even if it hurts you. And they want everything to fall within a manageable norm for them. Just because a journalist or whoever receives information from the CIA doesn't mean it's correct. It just means it's information they want you to have. People see it as, wow, from the CIA, finally I get to hear about secrets. How cool. It's not. It's information they want you to have, and always with the goal towards manipulating your perception. People are falling into the CIA manipulation trap, and they do because of their inability to think critically, because they follow those in authority without connecting the dots for themselves. Information is just information. They must connect it. People with authority have reasons to say whatever they say, and they are not good ones. But the important thing here is that the three-letter agencies, which all go with the CIA, control everything people know that modifies and guides their perception. That's a warning. And I understand that they could reverse that against me. But things being as they are, who would be telling you all this if it's not me, huh? If ufology and mystery topics affect the interests of the established religions, of course they will have their agents there. The CIA works for the interests of the corporations, who in turn are of the Jesuits. All of them. Why are we different? Because we are the only ones who are warning you about the fact that the agencies control everything that is accepted within ufology and spirituality. It is not a theory. It is a fact, and you must understand it. Also because the topics we give go against those established norms. And we explain as best as possible the why of the topics in detail, something that others do not explain. We don't say that so-and-so used an interdimensional portal and that explains why. We explain how the portal itself works in detail. Some also have this idea that other sources should not be listened to. We say, listen to everyone and use your heads to connect the dots. We empower and free minds. Others trap and try to normalize everything, to conform you to a narrative. Yes, and another question. How do you identify if something is of CIA? Because yes, we are warning the people, but what clues can we give them so that they can discern when something comes from the CIA? Some characteristics of the information itself?
I imagine everything that goes with the official narrative.
I would like something more specific, some more clues, if they exist. Because there is a lot within the official narrative. And some things are true, some things are not. How to identify the things that are not true? We accept the true things, but there is no way to identify if something is true or not true. There isn't. You can only try to understand as much as you can. Inform yourself by listening to all sources of information, and only after that, come up with your own particular idea
about what is real and what is not real for you. Always with a view to leave behind, without attachment, any certain model of reality if a better model arises to replace it. And that better model should only arise from the head of each one of you, and never from authorities, including me. If there is a clue, although it is not a completely reliable clue, what they say will have overtones of disempowering people, of making them follow something. It will also go with agendas that are known to be of CIA, like gender, global warming, or the whole long list of New World Order stuff. Anything that makes them delegate their hopes to an external savior. Anything that makes them feel they have no control over their own lives. Anything that makes them feel they fall into determinism. Most of all, the most direct clue is that it follows the accepted norms of the expert authorities and goes hand in hand with well-identified agendas. They should not follow us either. They should only follow themselves. But what they can decide for themselves is who to listen to the most and who not to listen to. From an absolute point of view, it is useful to listen to a Catholic Mass. But from the perspective of having limited time, it is better to establish priorities. Because for that limited time, this happens, that a person is the sum of what he listens to. That is to say, each person is the result of the external content they listen to. YouTube, books, magazine, programs, movies, and opinions of friends and family. You are the average of it all. Be careful what you consume, because it shapes your mind.
Well, thank you very much, Yazhi Swaruu. Thank you very much, Athena Swaruu, and everybody who watched the video until now. Just the final comments here. As you could see in the video, and we also made another video about the CIA manipulation, everything is manipulated in the society. And, like I said before, especially the alternative circles. If you want to know more about the CIA infiltration, federation and all that, we made a video about this, I think last June, and I'm going to put a link to that video in the description box below the video, so you can check it out. It was a very important video. And you can see Athena here explains in the second part how the CIA has its tentacles everywhere, and not only CIA. And be aware of that. And a very important point here, the fact that they are putting so much effort into infiltrating itself and manipulating and guiding the perception of the human society, including and especially the exopolitical movements. This just shows who has the real power here. If we were not at power and not a threat to the controllers, they would not bother. They would not bother putting all their operatives and all these shady narratives out there, developing those narratives and making sure it's logical and makes sense to people and appealing, and it appeals to people, if we were not some sort of, and a big sort of, threat to them. This points to the fact that we have the power, that we're the ones they are afraid of. So that's a very positive point here. Now, I know many of you will be asking at this point, with all that CIA manipulation and infiltration, how do I know that you, Gosha, and your friends are not infiltrated, are not CIA, that are not some sort of agency regressive agenda? Well, this is quite difficult for me to respond, just because the answer has so many different layers, and you just have to be on my side of this experience in order to fully understand it. But let's say first that when we first met them, and this is for the new people more than the older people, when we first met them, there was no agenda there. We just met them as friends, as many other people that were talking to them at the time, and none of them were sharing anything to the public. Their mission was just to talk to people on a friendly basis, casually, informally, and they did not have this goal of finding someone to present their information. And we were never approached that way by them. In fact, as I always say in some interviews, Swaruu was doubtful if this is really necessary to go and share information. So with that, you could clearly see that there was no agenda. And they kept talking to many other people, not just us. And none of these people ever shared anything. Today as well, there are still some contacts they reserved from the past that they maintain. And these people never share anything. So, Taigetans and Svarunians are there because of them. And they wouldn't waste so much time and energy if they were some agents, trying to do what? Through that contact, through that personal contact. It would make no sense to invest so much effort and resources and people and time. Someone had to be paid for that in order to just talk randomly to people. So that's one. Second of all, we have been at this contact for 4.5 years, and we have developed, deep friendship with not all of them, but some of them. And, we know deeply their personalities, their emotions, their sadnesses, their anxieties, their fears, what they like, what they don't like. I'm not saying I know everything about them, of course not, but a lot. So, there is trust built there, and not everything that we talk about is just information. We spend hours sometimes discussing various, behind the scenes situations and personal things and, relationships and all that. And again, all that effort, that would make no sense. But I do understand that people who are not in my position, in our position with Robert, and it just sounds like words to them. In that case, I would just direct your attention to the information itself. Analyze the tendencies in our information. Analyze what it is we're trying to teach or to draw your attention to. What is it that we are trying to expose? Because actually that's what we're trying to do, among many other things and purposes, is to expose Cabal's agendas, is to expose governmental agendas and disturb the narratives. Actually, what we're doing is we are disturbing very often main official narratives. And I'm not here only talking about the official matrix narratives, but also alternative matrix layer narratives. And because that's another layer of the matrix. If you haven't seen that video where we talked about CIA and Federation and all that, it was explained that the alternative movements, especially the official ones, that's another layer of the matrix. So we are disturbing most of the time many of these official stories and narratives thrown out there and perpetuated by the official experts of the ufology. And many times we're not liked for that, of course, and not just by them themselves, even by the followers, by the people themselves. Because according to them, we are being negative. That's one of the common arguments that sometimes I hear, which I do not understand at all, because the negative information it's not something that we are doing to the society. We're not doing this, what we talk about. We are just exposing to you the agendas and telling you how you are being manipulated so that you can be aware and educated, and so you can free yourself of those manipulative shackles that you are in. It's like, for example, we are trying to liberate animal at the circus. We go to the circus and we see all these tigers and elephants and lions and whatever oppressed, and not knowing that there is another way of living, and following all the tricks and orders of their trainers. And we go to these animals and we tell them, listen, this is what is being done to you. You are in shackles. They are putting this and this substance in your food so you are more docile and submissive and following their orders so you can do the tricks for them, because in fact, they need you for other reasons than you think you are here for. You are not here because you are loved, even though I'm not denying that maybe some trainers love their animals, of course, but whatever, just be with me with this example. You are not here because you are cherished for who you are, but because you are making money for the people and you are bringing them certain benefits. They need you. They need you trained. They need you manipulated. So imagine now these animals get angry at us for making them aware of the situation they are at, thanks to which, being informed, they can actually try to release themselves of that suffering and of that controlled way of living. So imagine that animal tells us, no, what you're talking about? Why are you bringing all this negative information? I am being fed. I have place to sleep. I have a roof over my head. It's okay. What are you saying? Why are you saying all these negative things that are substances in my food to make me docile? You mean that they are trying to make money from me? They don't love me? So it's a perfect metaphor, in a way, to a certain degree, to explain what I mean. We are not the ones doing that to those circus animals. We are not the ones doing this with the people. It's not us who is oppressing the humans. We are just telling you how you are being oppressed and what it is they are doing, so you can be aware and educated, informed, and so you can have options, so you can realize what situation you are really in, what deep mud you are really in, because there is no better slave than the one that is not aware that is being one. And what we are trying to do is making people aware how, in what ways they are being slaves and what it is that it is being done to them, so they can say no, so they can say I do not consent, so they can have options, so they can analyze and have a greater scope of information of what's happening in their reality. Because what I truly want is for those circus animals to be free. They don't know there is other way of living. They don't know they can be happy and should be frolicking around in the forest. That's what I want them to be. That's where I want you to be free, to be free of oppression, to be free of all these agendas. But before that, I want you to be aware. We want you to be aware of these agendas. So that's why we are presenting the information that we are presenting. It's all with a great intention at heart. And remember, it's not us who is doing all these ugly things. So that's that. Remember, everything is manipulated. Everything is guided. And be especially aware of the UFO circles. With that, one more thing. With that, I don't want to say close yourself to other information, to other sources of information. This is actually also what I think differentiates Taigetans and Svarunians from maybe other sources, is that we will never tell you to stop looking at other people. We will never tell you to stop analyzing other people's information and what they have to share, because that's exactly how you become what you become, by being able to analyze, to deduct, to come to the conclusion by yourself, and to reach into that inner intelligence within you, to know yourself, what is good for you, what is right for you, where you feel that it is something for you that nourishes you. So thank you very much for watching. I think I have said everything I wanted to say. There's always so much to say. With everything said in this video, the next one will kind of flow out of this one, which is conversation with Alanim, who is the leader and the first in charge, the queen of the ship. We talked to her a few weeks ago about a certain situation. She almost never comes online to talk to us because she's super busy, and she's not here for that. But there was a situation, and then the conversation went into the exopolitical topics. So in that conversation, you will actually hear from someone who is directly up there dealing with exopolitical situations and scenarios on a daily basis, and she will mention some points that were never mentioned. I never heard those points mentioned by anybody in the UFO circles, even though I admit I do not follow anybody in the UFO circles because I don't have time. Well, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see each other, maybe not, in the next video. Thank you again, and have a great day, evening, and night. Bye bye.